I never imagined I'd find metal spikes buried in Grandma Lillian's driveway. But when the HOA began zeroing in on her charming green cottage, and I uncovered her hidden career as a senior prosecutor tackling real estate fraud, it hit me. This wasn't just petty harassment. It was payback for the case she'd been quietly building against them. What would these crooked officials do when they realized their target was the one digging into their schemes? I pulled into Grandma Lillian's driveway with my suitcase and a box of her favorite pastries. The green cottage with its cream trim sat snugly among towering oaks, just as it had during my childhood summers. Except for one glaring difference, a neon yellow notice flapping on her front door like a bad omen. My stomach sank as I snatched it up. Violation notice. Unapproved exterior paint color. Action required within 72 hours. This made no sense. Grandma's cottage had been this same soft green forever. Welcome to Oakview Hamlet. A syrupy voice chirped from next door. A woman with flawless auburn hair stood at the property line, arms crossed over her tailored jacket. I'm Lisa Harper, chair of the HOA Community Standards Committee. I forced a grin. Hi, I'm Alex, Lillian's grandchild. I'm house-sitting while she recovers from surgery. Lisa's smile stayed cold. Such a pity about Lillian. We've been neighbors for, 6 years now. The rules are clear. Exterior colors must be committee approved. She eyed the cottage with distaste. That green was grandfathered in, but any repainting must match our approved tones. Mostly neutrals, you know. I glanced at the house again. The paint looked pristine. It seems freshly painted to me. Our inspector noted fading on the south side. Lisa replied, her smug tone grating. The violation stands. 72 hours, or fines start at $100 a day. As she strutted off, I caught her husband, David, watching from their porch. He ducked inside when our eyes met. Inside Grandma's cottage, everything felt cozy and familiar. The knitted blankets, the shelf of detective novels, the faint whiff of lavender. I called her at the rehab center right away. Alex, honey, I'm so glad you're there. Grandma's voice came through, weary but steady. When I mentioned the notice, she sighed. That's the fourth this month. First, my lilacs were too close to the path. Then my mailbox wasn't standard, even though it's been there since I moved in. But you've owned this place for decades, I said, puzzled. How can they enforce this now? That's what happens when developers take over the HOA, she explained. Michael Reed became president 6 months ago. He's a lawyer for Summit Realty Group. They've been snapping up properties here, raising old homes, and building oversized modern ones that sell for a fortune. I peeked out at Lisa's house, a hulking beige monstrosity dwarfing Grandma's cottage. Let me guess, the Harpers are tied to Summit? David Harper's the CEO, Grandma confirmed. They've got their eye on my lot because it's on the corner with a river view, prime for their biggest design. A chill ran through me despite the warm July air. I'll deal with this, Grandma. You just get better. After hanging up, I scouted the property. In the backyard, Grandma's prized lilac bushes had been hacked back, not trimmed with her usual care, but butchered. Odd. Checking the faded south wall, which looked flawless, my foot snagged on something in the gravel driveway. I bent down, and my blood ran cold. Half buried were metal spikes, not random debris but caltrops meant to shred tires. Someone had planted them where a car would roll. I gathered them with a glove from Grandma's shed, my mind racing. That night, sleep wouldn't come. The notices, the slashed lilacs, the spikes, this wasn't just HOA nonsense. It felt orchestrated, a plot to drive Grandma Lillian out of her beloved home. I dug into Oakview Hamlet's HOA rules online. The 200-page handbook had no list of approved colors or any clause forcing grandfathered properties to update. In fact, Section 14.2 shielded historic homes, like Grandma's, built in 1935, from retroactive changes. Around midnight, headlights swept the living room as a car crawled by. Peeking out, I saw a dark SUV pause in front of the cottage, lights dimmed, then circle the cul-de-sac. I snapped photos, catching part of the plate, SMT2. Summit. What were they doing surveilling the house? The paint notice suddenly seemed trivial. Morning brought more trouble. The mailbox was smashed, bent like it had been hit hard. Inside was another yellow notice. Improper yard maintenance, 48-hour deadline. I photographed it all, fixing the mailbox as best I could. This was absurd. Lisa Harper appeared, watering her flowers while eyeing me. Awful about that mailbox, she called. Kids these days are so wild. You should replace it with an approved model. I've got a catalog. I kept my cool. Thanks, but I'll repair it. It's original to the property. Her smile tightened. Damaged mailboxes violate rules. Another citation's coming if it's not replaced. I'd had it. I'll bring all these violations up at the next HOA meeting. When is it? A flicker crossed her face. Nerves, maybe? Not for 3 weeks, but Michael can handle emergencies anytime. I'm meeting him later. I could mention your case. I'll manage it myself. I shot back, heading inside. As I walked away, I overheard her on the phone. She's not budging. No, I don't think she suspects anything. We might need to push harder. I paced the cottage, piecing it together. Why target Grandma now? What did Lisa mean by push harder? And who'd planted those spikes? I decided to confront Michael Reed in person. The HOA office was open from 1 to 4 p.m. At the community center. I needed answers and a hunch that Oakview Hamlet was hiding something rotten. The center sparkled with new paint and fancy landscaping, a stark contrast to the aggression aimed at Grandma's modest home. Clutching a folder with notices, spike photos, and rule printouts, I marched in. Through the office door, I heard Lisa's sharp voice. We need to act fast on the Bennett property. She's been snooping at the county office. I froze, listening. Patience, Lisa, a smooth male voice replied. Michael, I assumed. The assessment hike hits next week. With that and the violations, she'll be drowning by month's end. But what if? Lisa cut off as I stepped in. Their surprised looks morphed into fake smiles. Alex, what timing? Lisa chirped, rising. I was just discussing your grandma with Michael Reed, our HOA president. Michael stood, offering a hand and a polished grin. Good to meet Lillian's grandchild. We're worried about her property slipping while she's away. On his desk sat a photo of him with David Harper under a Summit Realty, building Oakview's future banner. Funny you mentioned that, I said, placing the spikes on his desk. I found these in her driveway yesterday. Michael's smile held, but his eyes turned steely. That's troubling, but vandalism's a police issue, not HOA. I filed a report, I bluffed. They're checking cameras. Thought you'd want to know, since it followed the first notice. Lisa paled slightly. Are you suggesting something? I pulled out the notices. I'm suggesting these cite rules that don't exist. Section 14.2 protects historic properties like Grandma's from retroactive changes. Michael's charm faltered. The board recently axed those exemptions. Without notice? That's illegal under state law. I countered, grateful for my late-night research. Notifications are coming, he said dismissively. Now, if that's all, Lisa and I have work. One more thing, I said, revealing a Summit building plan for Grandma's lot, filed 3 months ago. Why's Summit planning on her property when she's never considered selling? Silence. Michael's mask slipped, revealing calculation. Speculative plans, he said finally. Summit drafts concepts to speed things up if owners sell. Convenient, I replied, especially with harassment to nudge those sales. Lisa jumped up. That's outrageous. We enforce standards fairly. Then you won't mind me requesting 6 months of violation records, public under state law. Michael's jaw clenched. Submitted in writing. We'll reply in 30 days. Already did, I said, waving a certified mail receipt, another bluff. Send it to the HOA and the State Housing Authority. They're curious about targeting patterns. Lisa flushed. Michael stayed composed, though a vein throbbed in his temple. We're done, he snapped. As I turned, he added, oh, the board approved a $300 monthly corner lot assessment last month. Lillian's notice is coming next week. A clear threat. I'll make sure she gets it. And the housing authority too, I said evenly. In the parking lot, my hands shook. This was a coordinated push to force sales. As I glanced back, Lisa watched me from the window, phone to her ear. I needed help. Grandma had lived here 30 years. Surely she had allies. Driving off, a gray sedan tailed me. I zigzagged through streets. It followed until I neared the police station, then peeled away. My phone rang, an unknown number. Is this Lillian Bennett's grandchild? A quiet, tense woman asked. Yes, I'm Alex. Who's this? Maria Gonzalez, across from your grandma, she whispered. Don't go back to the cottage, they're watching. Meet me at the Willow Creek Cafe in 20 minutes. I've got info on what's happening to Lillian and others. Others? I pressed. She's not the first they've targeted, Maria said. But she might stop them if you help. 20 minutes, alone. The line went dead. Trap or truth? Either way, I had to know. As I headed to the cafe, one question nagged. What did Maria mean about Grandma stopping them? What did my pie-baking, book-loving grandmother know? Glass crunched as I swept up a shattered flower pot hurled through Grandma's window. The note tied to the rock read, "Sell now or worse comes." Fury shook my hands. This was criminal now. You okay? Mister? Carter called from across the street, pointing to his doorbell camera. Caught that on video if you need it. I nodded, grateful, and darted inside. I needed Grandma's property docs to fight the paint claims. Her study was tidy but stuffed with labeled boxes. A locked filing cabinet hid in the corner, new to me. Rain poured as I hunted for the key. Lightning flashed, glinting off a tiny silver scales charm on her keychain, a quirky thing I'd always noticed. On a whim, I tried it. The lock clicked. Inside weren't just deeds, but a folder labeled Summit Realty Evidence File. My pulse raced as I skimmed photos of Michael with suited men, bank records, recordings, and maps with red-circled properties. What are you doing with my case files? Grandma's voice startled me. I'd accidentally speed-dialed her. Grandma, why do you have investigation files on David Harper's company? I whispered. A pause. Alex, listen close. That box holds 2 years of evidence. I'm not just a retired librarian. Her tone sharpened. I'm Senior Prosecutor Lillian Bennett, White Collar Crime Division. The knee surgery's a cover while I build this case. I sank into her chair, floored. Summit's targeting homes across 3 counties, forcing out seniors with HOA violations, then buying cheap. Michael handles legal, Lisa picks targets. They've hit 28 elderly folks already. I moved here undercover when we spotted the trend. I stared at the desk photos. That's why they want your cottage, for the river view. A crash downstairs cut her off. Through the blinds, I saw Lisa's SUV speed off. The living room window was smashed, rain flooding in. Alex, what happened? Grandma's voice crackled as I grabbed the phone. Someone broke in. I think they took your main evidence file. Check the red book, second shelf, she said calmly. I yanked down a hollowed-out novel revealing a USB and backups. Always keep copies, she said. Now you're in danger. They'll assume you know it all. A car door slammed outside. Michael strode toward the cottage, phone in hand, Lisa's SUV idling behind. They're here, I hissed. Back door, now, Grandma ordered. Take the files to Maria Gonzalez at 172 Pine. She's my ally. In my closet, behind the coats, the doorbell rang, then pounding. Alex, open up. We need to discuss new violations. Michael's voice boomed. I stuffed the files and USB into my backpack as the front door splintered. Footsteps stormed in. Check upstairs, Michael barked. Find those papers. I crept toward the back door. Going somewhere. Lisa blocked it, smirking. Your grandma asked me to check her plants. Then you won't mind me looking in that bag, she said, reaching. Michael found them downstairs. My heart hammered. I tripped, knocking over a lamp. As it shattered, I shoved past her, sprinting into the rain. Stop her, Lisa yelled. I darted between houses, mud soaking me, Michael's shouts fading. I Googled 172 Pine, 2 blocks away. As I moved, a text hit, behind you. Don't scream. Friend. I spun to see an older woman with jet black hair under an umbrella. Maria Gonzalez, she said. Lillian texted me. Hurry. She guided me through yards to a cozy tan house. Inside, she triple-locked the door. Welcome to the Resistance Hub, she said, pointing to a table where 3 seniors sat with maps and files. Judge Henry Brooks, retired, a tall man with gray hair, said. Lillian said you have the files? I nodded, unloading the USB and papers. Great, said a woman with a notepad. Sarah Kim, Oakview Gazette editor. I've tracked property flips for months. A man with a laptop nodded. James Carter, my cameras aren't just decor. Maria brought me tea as they explained Summit's scam, targeting seniors, rigging HOAs, and forcing sales. Your grandma moved here on purpose after seeing the pattern, Sarah said. James showed footage of Michael and Lisa planting spikes and smashing windows. We've got plenty, Henry said. but need Lillian's files to tie it legally. I handed over the USB. They know I have it. They'll hunt me. Maria grinned. Good. That's our bait. Their plan unfolded. They'd crashed the emergency HOA meeting, exposed Summit, and needed Grandma there to seal it. I'll call her, I said. No cells. Maria stopped me. They might track. Use my landline. Sarah showed me a draft article. State prosecutor busts housing fraud in Oakview Hamlet. Not yet, I warned. After the meeting, she winked. Grandma picked up. It's early, she said when I explained. We need more on David Harper. Got it. James called, showing footage of David passing Michael an envelope. Send it to my secure email, Grandma said. Tell Maria, protocol, endgame. Maria beamed. She's moving. Endgame meant Grandma and her attorney general team would strike. As we planned, the lights died. Lisa's SUV prowled past. They're searching, Henry whispered. James led me to a basement safe room. 3 others hid here, he said. Maria handed me a pad. Write everything. Times, words, details. Your testimony's key. A noise upstairs paused me. Maria returned, pale. They've bumped the meeting to tomorrow morning. Before Lillian arrives, Henry frowned. Can we stall? Sarah smirked. Leave it to me, press creds, and endless questions. Through the basement window, I saw Michael at Maria's door with 2 men, one in an Oakview security uniform. MS. Gonzalez, wellness check for seniors tonight, Michael called. At 11 p.m.? Maria scoffed, shutting him out. A text from Grandma hit my burner phone. Don't go, trap. They know me. My hands shook. This was war now. 3 weeks later, Grandma Lillian's green cottage glowed, lilacs blooming free. Neighbors brought pies and thanks as word spread of Oakview's near takeover by Summit. The DA's offering Michael and Lisa a deal to flip on David Harper. Grandma said over iced tea on her porch. Still jail time for fraud and damage. Judge Henry dropped off new HOA bylaws. No developer loopholes. The community rallied fast. Maria became HOA president. James wired free cameras for seniors. Even Lisa's kid offered to mow Grandma's lawn. I was retiring next month, Grandma mused, watching kids play across from the Harper's empty house. But I'll stick around. HOAs statewide need fixing. I grinned. Need an assistant? I'm switching to law.